Jeff Bezos, right? You know the name. You definitely know the company. But the real story of how a guy selling books out of his garage built an empire that completely reshaped our world, well, it's about more than just business plans and profits. It's a story about obsession, incredible ambition, and it all starts with one single, startling number that changed absolutely everything. This is the number. 2,300%. Imagine it's 1994. A young Jeff Bezos has a really comfortable, high-paying job on Wall Street. Life is good. Then he sees a report that says internet usage is growing by 2,300% a year. I mean, that's not just growth, that's an explosion. A number so massive, so unbelievable, it made him stop and question his entire future. So let's start there. Section 1, the 2,300% idea. This is all about how that one statistic sparked a leap of faith from a super stable career into a completely unknown future. You know, this wasn't just a simple career change. For Bezos, that number, that 2,300%, was basically a call to adventure. He saw a future that most of us couldn't even begin to imagine back then, and he just knew, deep down, that he had to be a part of it, even if it meant risking everything he had. Okay, so what happens after he takes that giant leap? That brings us to Section 2, building the everything store. This is the story of how Amazon went from an idea in a garage to, well, global domination. So what did he actually do? Step 1, he quits that cushy Wall Street job, just walks away. Then he and his wife at the time, Mackenzie Scott, get in a car and drive all the way across the country to Seattle. Why Seattle? Simple. It had the tech talent he needed, and it was close to a huge book distributor. And that's where they launched what started out as just a simple online bookstore. And things were incredibly humble at the start. I mean, he called the company Amazon after the world's largest river because his vision was that big. But the reality? It was a garage. And yeah, those famous desks made from cheap wooden doors? Totally real. It was all about being frugal. He was literally on his hands and knees packing boxes himself. And at the time, most investors he talked to, they thought he was completely crazy. An online bookstore. Who would use that? This right here, this was his mantra. His entire philosophy. He didn't care about making a profit in those early days. Nope. All that mattered was growth and scale. Every single dollar the company made went right back into making it bigger. Wall Street analysts looked at this and called it absolutely reckless. They just didn't get it. And you can see just how well that get big fast strategy paid off. In the 90s, yeah, Amazon was all about books. But then the 2000s hit, and boom, it exploded into a full-blown e-commerce giant with game changers like Prime. Not to mention the revolutionary Amazon Web Services, AWS, where they started renting out their massive computing power to other companies. By the 2010s, they were dominating cloud computing, pushing hard into AI with Alexa, and even buying up physical retail giants like Whole Foods. But, you know, building an empire that big, that fast, it always comes at a price. And that brings us to Section 3, the price of an empire. Because with all that success came immense scrutiny, controversy, and some very public personal challenges. So you really have these two different public images of Jeff Bezos, right? On one hand, he's the global innovator, the visionary who created unimaginable wealth. But on the other hand, he's become the target of intense criticism over everything from warehouse working conditions and tax policies to Amazon's crushing impact on small businesses. His once private life also became total tabloid fodder, creating a really complex and controversial legacy. And speaking of his personal life, wow, let's just take a look at this number. $38 billion. That was the rough value of the Amazon stock that Mackenzie Scott received in their divorce settlement back in 2019. It was a massive turning point for Bezos, both personally and professionally, marking the end of a 25-year partnership that had started before Amazon was even a real thing. And then came the whole media firestorm. The National Enquirer got a hold of his private messages and published them. But instead of hiding or trying to make it go away quietly, Bezos did something nobody expected. He went on the offensive. He publicly accused the tabloid's parent company of blackmail. It was this moment that revealed a fiercely private but also incredibly combative side of him that the public had really never seen before. This act of defiance really seemed to mark a shift. After building this massive empire on Earth, Bezos set his sights a little higher, on the stars. Which brings us to our final section, the final frontier. It's about his transition from CEO to space explorer. And let's be clear, this wasn't some sudden whim. His dream of going to space started way back when he was a kid in the 60s.
He actually founded his space company, Blue Origin, super quietly way back in the year 2000. So when he stepped down as Amazon CEO in 2021, it was really him committing fully to this lifelong passion. And just a few months later, he fulfilled that dream and flew to space himself.
Which, of course, brings us to the central debate around his space ambitions. The critics immediately jumped on it, calling it a billionaire's ego trip, nothing more than a joyride for the super rich. But Bezos, well, he frames it as something much, much bigger.
This is his vision. He argues that for humanity to survive and thrive long-term, we can't stay on one planet. We have to expand into the solar system. So for him, Blue Origin isn't just about space tourism, it's about building the fundamental infrastructure, the road to space, that will let future generations innovate and build a future out there.
So where does all this leave us? I mean, from a garage to the edge of space, Jeff Bezos didn't just build a company. You could argue he built an entire era. But what will that era's legacy actually be? Will it be the incredible convenience of one-click shopping, the controversies and the human costs of that convenience? Or will it be the very first steps on a new road to the stars? That, I think, is the real question his story leaves us all to ponder.